All right, everybody, we got another guest appearance here for you. A good friend of mine was in the market for another gun, and he really wanted to try out a 1911 platform. We went out and did a little bit of research and kind of saw some things and said, hey, okay, what do you think about this one, that one there? And the gun shop there had quite a few different 1911s there, but usually he'd want something a little bit higher end. So he ended up walking away with this Ruger 1911 lightweight Commander, and this is a really nice gun actually. Not cheap at all. I mean, this is probably around $1,000. So definitely not a cheap option compared to something like my T-Sauce 1911 here. This one was definitely a factor cheaper than this Ruger. So um, Ruger, has a pretty good track record of making some pretty good firearms. I mean, I have plenty of Rugers myself, even though my Security 9 video and review and experience has not been great. Uh, Pretty much everything else they make is pretty good. And this one is no exception at all. We'll just cover over some of the features here that come on this lightweight Commander. So to start off first, the reason why this is called a lightweight Commander is because it is a Commander size. So it has the abbreviated slide and barrel, which is about 4 1/4 versus the traditional 5-inch of the full-size models. The frame is called, the reason why it's called lightweight is because it's an aluminum frame. With a special little feature though, it makes it a little bit different from maybe some others, is I don't know if we can see in there. So the feed ramp right in there, right there, that feed ramp is actually a titanium insert in the aluminum frame itself, which I think is pretty interesting because that's definitely not something I expected to encounter with something like this. They definitely don't really go out of their way to say, hey, this is a titanium insert feed ramp into the frame. So that's pretty cool to find that out. It also features a titanium firing pin, which is good because this is a Series 70 style fire control, not a Series 80, which I'm indifferent to either one. Some purists out there will say a Series 70 is better than a Series 80. I'm indifferent. To me, they both work just fine. I have both examples. Never had an issue with them. Doesn't make any difference to me at all. Continuing on, it's got very, very thin wooden grips here. As you can see, it's exceptionally thin, which is probably aiding the mentality of what this gun was designed for, which was carry. So thin grips make for a even already thin 1911 style grip, even thinner with these thin grips, and I'll show you the difference here. So let me decock this. These have already been checked clear. So if you look at the thickness right there, you can see a big difference. These are regular size G10 grips compared to the thin wooden Ruger grips. So big difference there. Does it make it any harder to control under fire? I would say no. This actually controls very, very well for what it is. You'd think with a lighter weight, it would recoil a little bit more. And this is snappier, yes, than my 5-inch gun, but it's not uncontrollable by any means. Continuing on, so it has a very aggressively checkered mainspring housing here in the back, which feels awesome, by the way. Unfortunately, they don't have it on the front strap. There is no checkering here on the front strap. I really wish they applied the same checkering on the mainspring housing to the front strap. That would make this thing extra super grippy. That would be awesome. But as it is, it's still plenty controllable as it is. I mean, I have no problem with the standard mainspring housing and lack of checkering on the front with my regular 1911, so anything that improves on that is, of course, a nicety to have, but not required. Continuing on, you have your serrated trigger here with the little adjustment screw that you can adjust basically the travel of the trigger. I don't feel it's necessary myself, but for personal preference, you can obviously change that to what you like. Also has the extended beaver tail grip safety. So just for another comparison here, you can see how short that beaver tail is. It's kind of small versus this one, which is kind of upswept and a little bit longer. Now, some would argue that that might actually get in the way of carrying because if you're usually carrying your pistol, it's down like this. So if you're doing appendix carry, this part might stick up into your gut, you know, and dig into your meat a little bit. But if you can overcome that, or it doesn't bother you, then this is actually a pretty nice feature, because it has a nice scalloping there, as you can see here for the hammer to sit, so you won't get any slide bite or anything like that. Not that I've ever gotten slide bite with any of my 1911s, but some people do. So for some people, this extended beaver tail is definitely a welcome addition. So I think it looks nice too. Just overall, makes it look a little bit more, I don't know, flairish, I guess. It also has a extended safety lever, and the safety is very positive, which is good. So you can hear the clicks there. Very, very positive, very good. I definitely like these. You know, I can still use the standard safety just fine, but seeing how much that sticks out, some people might not like that for carry. I don't think it'll be a problem for most, though. If you're looking for ultra slim, you could always change that out for something slimmer. But this makes for a very, very easy transition when you go to draw and you flip your safety off. It's very fast, so I do like that. Next up, also, you have the skeletonized hammer, which I'm indifferent about. Some people say it makes the gun go fast, or faster than a regular hammer. Some people say it makes it easier to thumb cock it, decock it, whatever. I'm really indifferent to them. I could live without them. I can live with them. Doesn't matter to me. But some people like them. I will say it does make it a teeny bit easier to decock, because if you look at a regular hammer, this one's not even a regular hammer. It's got the extended kind of flange there on the end. But if you're trying to decock, you know, basically I'm pinching the hammer on both sides, kind of like this. Or you could just hold it and thumb it back. But if you have the skeletonized hammer, your finger has more purchase to pinch and hold on to it, you know, if you are going to decock it. Oops, which I failed there, but anyway. Also features standard, thankfully, Novak style sights, so front and rear, dovetailed. There is 1,000,000,001 different kinds of Novak aftermarket sights that you can put on these. So that's really awesome. Glad they did that. Sight arrangement is your standard 3-dot. Now this is one point I'm actually a little bit critical on this gun. For as much as you're paying for this, you think they would kind of include night sights or maybe fiber optics or something like that, rather than your standard kind of 3-dot arrangement, which, I don't know, it's serviceable, but it's not great. I would rather have all blacked out rear with a red fiber optic front, but that's my personal preference. Of course, if I was carrying this also as a self-defense piece, I would probably replace these with, you know, Trijicon night sights. So, but that's me. Also does not, of course, feature any kind of rail here on the dust cover. That's totally fine. And the other important aspect of this is a actual traditional style bushing 1911. It's not a full-length guide rod style bushingless 1911, which is important because I always find the bushingless 1911s to be an absolute pain in the ass to take apart and kind of deal with maintenance-wise, because you got to insert that little paper clip into the recoil spring so it sits just right, and then you got to take it out and do all this stuff, and it's a real pain. I definitely much prefer this bushing style because it takes down just like a conventional 1911 does. So to me, that's always what I'm more familiar with, and that's what I like. So that's the features. This is, of course, chambered in 45, as 1911s are meant to be. And yeah, other than that, that's pretty much the feature set of this. I imagine the frame is compatible with your standard regular 1911 parts. If you want to get really fancy and trick it out, replace the mainspring, you know, replace the trigger if you feel like you needed to. I don't feel like you need to with this gun because it's actually pretty good right out of the box. So you can see it here locked open. Trigger on this is not the lightest that I have for 1911s, but it's certainly not bad either. So also you can see there the trigger itself is serrated, so that's pretty nice. It will wear at your finger just a little bit depending on how you shoot. So if I'm shooting like this, where the front of my pad is doing a pushback like this, the recoil does kind of wear on the tip of my finger just a little bit, versus if I'm going around like this, I'm trying to be super fast with shooting, it doesn't hurt as much, but you definitely do feel the serrations. So if there are some people out there that don't like serrations, of course you can change the trigger shoe out. So yeah, so trigger on this, like I said, it's not the lightest, but it's certainly not bad. So here we go. Yeah, there we go, nice and clean. Very clean. Reset is, let's see, get that right there. Nice, very clean. Yeah, it's not a hair trigger, but you know, for a carry gun, I don't think you necessarily want a hair trigger either, because yeah, you only want to shoot when you want to shoot, not when you don't mean to, of course. So, but going to that, how did it shoot? So I have a lot of history at 1911s. I can shoot these things pretty well. But a buddy of mine, he's just kind of getting used to shooting a 1911 platform and how much different it is from your usual striker-fired plastic fantastic 9mm. And he definitely prefers these. So that's awesome. I'm glad I could have another convert to the the Church of St. Browning, so to speak. Right. So for me, the recoil itself was more than a 5-inch model for sure. 5-inch all steel like my Rock Island. It's definitely more than that. But nothing that was uncontrollable by any means. So I could be fast with this. I could fire this one-handed, no problem. I tested a huge range of magazines, all the ones that I have. So I have like an ACT mag, a couple Metgar magazines. I've got Wilson Combats. I've got Kimber magazines, Chip McCormick's original Colt magazines, Packmeyer magazines back when they made those. You know, huge range of magazines. Everything worked 100% flawlessly. Also including the Ruger factory magazines that came with this, worked just fine. It fed all the ammo that we had just fine. No stoppages really. Fed hollow points, which is the important part with 1911s, as everyone knows. Feeding hollow points through 1911s is not a guaranteed thing, but thankfully for this one, a modern production gun, it was no problem at all. So happy to report that. So reliability is good. Accuracy. So standard accuracy for pretty much every modern pistol that I have been reviewing. I got a 2-inch group at 25 yards. Once I figured out where this thing was hitting, because with this sight arrangement, I noticed that the rear sight is sitting up really high compared to the front sight. So when you do that, basically, if you're trying to get your good sight picture, this gun's going to be pointing up quite a bit. So this was hitting quite high. Even at 10 yards, this thing was hitting about 2 to 3 inches high. So that makes it even worse, though, when you go out to 25 yards, because I basically had to aim super low just to try and get a decent hit on what I was aiming at. But this is not meant to be a target race match gun, of course. This is meant to be a self-defense piece. So if it was a human-sized target at 25 yards, I'd have absolutely no problem stacking these where they needed to go, or hitting something vital, which is the point. So no problems there. Yeah, so 2 inches at 25 yards, your standard accuracy I would expect out of a modern production pistol. So very happy with that, especially with this sight setup and everything else. It shoots like a 1911, which is to say, very well. Very happy with how this turned out too, because I've actually been looking at one of these. I've been meaning to get a modernized, nicer, quote unquote, 1911 than my Rock Islands or my T-sauces here, right? These are cheap guns in the sense that they're inexpensive, right? I'm not going to say they're cheap quality-wise because I don't think they are, but maybe something a little bit nicer than your standard GI setup like this. So, of course, I replaced the sights, but whole different story. I want something that's a little bit nicer out of the box, and of course, Ruger makes nice products. I like to buy from them, so I was looking at one of their 1911s, kind of like this, and yeah, I'm very happy to say that this has performed excellently and is a high recommend from me. It definitely feels good in the hand. I've never had a Commander size 1911 before, and this is a very comfortable size. I like to think of it maybe as like your G19 size, for 1911s, whereas the Commander, the GI full length 5-inch is like your Glock 17. Versus the officer size, which is even like itty bitty, like Colt Defender size 1911. That's probably more along the lines of like your Glock 26, for instance. Just an analogy of sizes. So I have shot officer, commander, officer, Colt Defender size. Gosh, that's not confusing at all. Colt Defender size 1911s, I have shot those quite a bit as well, and those are very snappy. So this is definitely a nice middle ground for sure. You know, it's not obnoxiously long. It doesn't feel like a brick in your hand. Carries well, it shoots well. I mean, what more do you want? 100% reliable, accurate, and it shoots, of course, the 45, which is one of my favorite self-defense rounds. So, I recommend there. This thing also did work with all the +1s. So I've got a Wilson Combat 8-round magazine here with a little extended base plate here at the bottom, and I really wanted to see if this could handle certain magazines with a fully loaded 8-round magazine with a +1 in the chamber, because some 1911s are a little harder to do than others with that, and some magazines are 1911 magazines are not all built the same. They're not all created equal. Some will sit, some will not. So, for instance, this camber here is also an 8-round magazine, but if you look at the size difference there, you can see, right? So they both hold 8, but if I try to do a 8+1 in this gun, or any of my 1911s actually in 45, this will not sit. It will not go all the way in and lock. But if I take my Wilson Combat here and load it up with 8+1, and I really, really, really jam that thing in there really, really hard, it actually will fit. So you can have a 9 total round capacity Commander 1911 just like this. So, and sure, it does stick out a little bit on the bottom there, but it's honestly not that bad. You know, it's not like the 10 round magazines, which are like, you know, sticking out like this, or the 15 rounds, which are like a stick you can beat somebody with. Like, you're basically putting a yardstick into your gun. But yeah, I think it's actually a pretty handsome looking, you know, package there. So yeah, I am a fan for sure. So yeah, there's a little review there for the Ruger Lightweight Commander 45 there for you. Really nice gun, and you know me, I like my 1911, so this was definitely an excellent piece. So gotta thank my buddy for letting me do a review here and cleaning it up for him, service it for him, make it all nice, pretty, and shiny again. So that's all I gotta say about that. Highly recommend, and we'll catch you next time.